Well, we left off at verse 15 with Moses praying that God would swing the mathematical pendulum into the positive and recompense all their years of sorrow with an equal and even greater amount of gladness. We explained that yesterday. So today we come to the last two verses of the psalm, and I love this because you got to remember the big picture. We've come through this part of the psalm that just sounds so destitute. Life is brief. We're all going to destruction, the grave, dust. We're all the objects of God's wrath. Seems like every day is hard. And if we live 70 or 80 years, life is, even the best of lives is filled with hard work and sorrow. And then Moses gets to verse 12 and says, so, in light of all this, God, teach us to number our days. And let us have your wisdom. And turn to us, return to us, and give us an option to access you by your mercy. Give us your mercy. And as we enter that relationship of mercy, we suddenly find Moses able to rejoice and be glad. We find him asking for a kind of gladness that sweeps over and swallows up all of the sorrows of life. We then come to verse 16, and by now we would have assessed that life must be worthless. Life must be meaningless. There must not be a work worth doing. Why get out of bed? Why even care about tomorrow if this is just such a vapor of a life, dust to dust? We start out, we're from dust, we go back to dust. So what's the point? Why do we care? Why should we care? Well, this is it. I love it. Let thy work appear unto thy servants, and thy glory unto their children. So, oh my goodness, there's so much here, so little time to talk about it, okay? This is God's world. This is God's timeline. He has purposes. I am God's creation. So he assigned me to this address on time and space. My address, February 1969, to who knows when. That's my permanent fixed address in time and space. I can't move. I can't relocate. This is where I live. And this is my one chance to live. There won't be any other time on the timeline that belongs to me. And it's God's timeline, so therefore it's God's work. God is doing a work. You notice he doesn't say, start working, God, okay? No, he says, let thy work appear. Let it be visible. Let us see it. Let us realize it. Give us clarity. Give us perspective to see where you are at work. So yeah, God's at work. He always is. He never stops moving things the direction he's moving them. He never stops the mystery of his will. That is true cosmically. That is true politically. That is true economically, globally, nationalistically. That is true personally for you. He never stops his work in your life, being confident of this very thing, that he which began a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. So, my friend, yes, he is at work in you, around you. So the prayer, let your work appear unto thy servants, Moses sees himself and sees Israel not as a nation that God owes them something, not as just their national identity as we are great, we are the great Israelites. Moses wasn't decrying Israelitish exceptionalism, Israeli exceptionalism. He wasn't decrying make Israel great again. No, he said, God, we're your servants. You made us a people. You made us a nation. You brought us out. You're leading us into the promised land. This is yours. This whole script is yours. So you're doing a work. We are your servants. So Moses saw not only himself and the people as servants, but serving the work that God was doing. So a work that God is doing and a people created for the work, in the work, led into the work. And so Moses then says, let thy work appear. Let us see it. Give us clarity. And I see this in two ways. Let us see you at work around us. God, we want to see you, experience you in profound and personal and remarkable. We want to just see your hand in this. But thy servants are, like, show us your work so we know where to engage. We know what to do. And I think each generation needs to pray this prayer, because generation to generation, God has been doing different things in different ways. In some broader theological term, we would call that dispensationalism. In other words, God dealt in pre-Israelitish world, pre-Hebrew world in one way, and then he formed Abraham into a family and a people group and began to do a work through Israel revealing himself. So God revealed himself in creation this way. God revealed himself to Abraham this way. God revealed himself to the Israelite slaves in Egypt this way. God is going to reveal himself to this next generation in Joshua's day as conquering hero. God at different times on the timeline revealed himself in different ways. He's written a very complex, beautiful, easily understood, but still a complex narrative, all the while showing us who he is and what he's really doing in the grand work of redemption. Jesus is the hero of the story. It's all pointing to, leading up to, or flowing out of Jesus and the work that Jesus does that we call the gospel. And so Moses says, we're your servants, you're doing a work, we're here to engage your work, so God, let us see it. Show it to us. And there's the sense here that, and we'll get to the next sense that there is a work for us to do, okay? But this first sense is that we want to have a larger view. We want to have that satellite view of what you are doing, God, because we don't want to do what we want to do. We're not here to work our works. We're not here to simply just unfold our plans. We're here to engage your works. We're here to do the work you've called us. We're here to do the work that you are doing. We're here to serve the work you are doing. And my friend, that's just a great statement. I got to hurry. This next phrase, and thy glory unto their children. God, we don't just want to see your work and engage that work. We want our children to see your awesomeness as a result of us, your servants, engaging your work. Do you see the multi-generational burden and love and view? Moses is basically saying, I'm here to be a part of the work that God is doing and to show him to the next generation. God, this is redemptive of this short trip we have on planet Earth. It gives purpose. What's our purpose? To engage God's work and to show him to the next generation. To engage as servants so that the next generation will drop their jaws, widen their eyes, and say, wow, I want this God. Last thing I want to say is that Moses said we want our children to see your glory. The concept of glory is hard for us to grasp, but the concept is God's beauty, his awesomeness, his attractional delight, his awe, his awness, okay? It's that which would cause us to celebrate him and to fall before him in absolute adoration and worship. God's glory is what would cause us to be drawn to him and to choose him. And so what Moses is saying is we don't want our children just to follow in our steps because they have to, or because they've been guilted or shamed or pressed to, or because they've been forced or coerced to. God, we want them to be gloried to you. We want them to be won over by your heart, by your glory. And my friends, leading your children to God that way is a very different proposition than just telling them what they have to do. They need to see his love in you, for you, through you. They need to experience unconditional love from you. And in that, they just get a taste of the great, wonderful, beautiful heart of God. And when you taste the heart of God, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good, you just want to run to him because it wins your heart. It melts your heart. That's how loved we are. And it ought to be our prayer today. God, am I engaged in your work in a way that my children, the next generation, can see your glory? That's the way to do this life. That's the way to win the next generation to God, to win their hearts to his love and to his glory, to help them see God is not someone they have to follow. He's someone they want to know. That's the way.